everyone, and welcome to What Culture Star Wars. This week saw some big changes for the galaxy far, far away, at least when it comes to video games, with Lucasfilm Games rising from the ashes to end EA's exclusivity deal with the Star Wars license, and announcing a brand new open-world Star Wars title coming from the Division 2 developers, Massive Entertainment. A new era of Star Wars games is upon us, but what's next for the series EA got right, and what games could possibly come next? I'm, of course, Ewan Patterson, and today with me to discuss the news is Ben-Roy Turner.
Hello there.
And hello there. A delayed hello there.
Yes, a delayed hello there. It was a nervous hello there. The first Star Wars hello there of 2021.
Hello there.
It's weird how this sort of like this wealth of Star Wars like announcements is coming out of nowhere. How long ago did we have all the shows, and now we're getting all these games, and it almost feels like the mouse has sort of done what they thought they had to with getting the 7, 8, and 9 out, and now it's just like, let's try something different. And also the High Republic, what was like last week as well?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just...
I still haven't read that yet. I need to. I finished Alphabet Squadrons' second book last week, and now I'm moving on to Ahsoka. But yeah, it's a big deal because Lucasfilm Games, they have been around. I know a lot of people have said that this was their big return last week, but they have existed as an entity of Disney video games for a while now. But now they're taking a more active role in a way that I guess is kind of similar to what Marvel have been doing for a while now, in terms of not just giving carte blanche to one publisher and developer to go ham with the license, but, being a little bit more selective with who you're giving your stuff to. I mean, that hasn't always paid off given that we just had Marvel's Avengers last year, but, it makes more sense than, say, giving the license to a publisher who then only goes on to make like 4 AAA Star Wars games in a decade.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucasfilm Games, they basically returned from the ashes last week and announced an Indiana Jones title that's coming from Bethesda, which we're both excited for because, we both love Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And then literally the next day after, they announced the Star Wars stuff, and it got leaked. It didn't get leaked. It broke on Wired magazine before literally anything else, and they revealed that Ubisoft's Massive Entertainment, who made The Division 2, will be working on an open world Star Wars title that's going to be using the Snowdrop engine from that game, and yeah, basically ushering in a new era of Star Wars games. EA will continue to make Star Wars titles as well. That's a very important thing to emphasize here. It's just that they no longer have exclusive access to the brand, which again, I think this is a good thing, because even though, we can talk about how disappointing or, misused EA's tenure with the Star Wars license was, they made some good games. Star Wars Battlefront 2015 was enjoyable. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was phenomenal after the terrible launch it had. And then you have Jedi Fallen Order, which is fantastic. And then also Star Wars Squadrons. So, and I think everyone will be relieved in a way because a lot of people are anticipating sequels to those titles. But yeah, Ben-Roy, what are your overall thoughts on this now? Is this the right path that Lucasfilm Games have taken?
Well, first, if I have to say, I did a really good tweet the other day where it was...
Here he is.
EA was it Disney are altering the deal. Pray they didn't alter it any further.
Oh, that's good. I wish I'd thought of that.
No, it feels a bit like that. How did we ever get this is me thinking about, was it 10 years ago that they started making these games? If that's so, I'm dying inside. But when they signed this exclusivity, I didn't realize we had a set date on it. I guess they just kept it secret because of business.
Yeah, there wasn't just to interrupt you, there wasn't an actual, there was some confusion over that in the report last week, because some people thought it was cancelled prematurely, or whether there was initial confusion over the initial announcement, whether it was like 8 years or 10 years or whatever. So, but yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and it's funny because now especially this announcement, it feels like Squadrons was like, what can we make fast that we already have a bunch of assets for, and let's get because it's not like Squadrons feels like crap or anything, right? I'm trying to get around it.
I really like Squadrons.
It was just like they had the ship sort of mechanics. They got the writer in for Battlefront 2 to write a story here. It just felt like, and it was a discounted title. It was like £40 here when it came out. But yeah, it just felt like Squadrons was like that last quick, well, let's get something out just so we can, we've got the Star Wars license for one last minute before it spreads everywhere. But yeah, now that it's going everywhere, are we going to get this sort of that time after the Phantom Menace came out, where we
Yes.
was having 1 or 2 Star Wars games a year at some point, wherever
You
it
know how
was.
many Star Wars games came out in 2005, Ben-Roy?
Probably
Like,
like
a
4.
mad amount. You had Lego Star Wars, you had Star Wars Battlefront 2, you had Star Wars Republic Commando, you had Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, and I'm sure there's probably some RTS bollocks that I've completely forgotten about as well. Yeah.
I had all of them in one
Hmm.
way or another, and like yeah, and like because EA, look, put it this way, EA are never going to do like another Empire at War sort of like so the fact that they're spreading out the license like this, and if people now, it seems like if people are pitching good things, then it's a go. Like it seems like Eves and his puts up his cloak like, yes, I can't do it because my wife's here, but this is me being Eves getting the Star Wars license to let's do an Ubisoft open world game where we climb every sort of, I don't know, climb the Death Stars to reveal more of the galaxy.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing to move on to because we pretty much covered the basics of the deal there.
Yeah.
The precedent that Lucasfilm have established now is that they're going to be listening to everyone, which opens up the door to all sorts of different studios to make all sorts of different Star Wars games. But of course, if they wanted their obligatory open world next gen title, then Ubisoft are the guys to go to for that. And in regards to this open world title, we don't know when it's set, who it's going to be about. But there is plenty to speculate there already, given Massive Entertainment's resume. They did The Division 2. The creative director on the upcoming Star Wars game, the name has escaped me because I didn't write it down because I'm a numpty, but he is actually also worked on The Crew as well. So there's a history of, open world, multiplayer co-op focused titles there. So
I hope we
instead
don't
of
get a crew style Star Wars game. That's just saying that. I just put it out
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't think it'll be single player. That's just going to be my kind of take right now. I don't think it'll be single player oriented. And again, I'm fine with that because we have Respawn's Fallen Order sequel that is definitely getting made to kind of, occupy that quote unquote niche, if you want to call it that. But I'm also not particularly here for The Division, but make it Star Wars. As much as I want to play a Star Wars co-op game where me and my mates can customize our costumes and win a space beanie after shooting 50 Greedos or whatever.
Yeah.
Rhodians. I know they're called Rhodians. I was making a joke. I'm still not particularly too keen on it being The Division, but Star Wars. But that's probably really premature. We don't know what the hell form it's kind of take. But what do you think it's going to be?
It's weird because I was trying to think of how the Division would fit into anywhere in Star Wars. I'm like, a squad of like mercenaries going around Coruscant, like in the lower levels or something like that.
Scoundrels, bounty hunters, smugglers.
Yeah, it's just, but then like bounty hunter, like because I to me it doesn't feel like bounty hunters are going around in a squad. But after watching so much Clone Wars recently,
Hey, Boba has his own crew.
Yeah, Boba has his own crew. Get Dengar, as long as we get Dengar back in some form. Like I just want to have a dirt nap with Dengar. Really, at this point, I used to hate him, but now I'm just on Team Dengar. It feels like maybe if they were to do that maybe set it during the sort of like the 30 years between. I know it's like, oh, set it during the 30 years between A New Hope, not A New Hope, Jedi and Force Awakens, because then that's got sort of like the galaxy's in a bit of turmoil. You can have people going around like a settlement and in open plains and stuff, and sort of like it being lawless in a way. Other than that, maybe I don't think we're going to get any game set past Rise of Skywalker, just because they're just going to leave that alone until a film comes out. So it's probably going to be either that or set prior to Phantom Menace at this point.
Yeah.
And also, I was thinking like maybe they could just do a Clone Wars game, like take stuff from the Clone Wars series and aspects of that, and just do something like that. Either way, it's going to be it's going to be a 4-player squad game thing. I hope it's not just one of those games, this jobs games where I've got to go on every day and like get a different a purple blaster compared to my blue color blaster. I don't want that sort of thing, but I'm skeptical. But I feel like it's got to be the galaxy's got to be well, it always is in turmoil, but I don't think you could set it during, say, like A New Hope and like Jedi and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of, we're going to talk about the overall expanded Star Wars canon. Most of the stories that we've seen, in the past 2 decades, whether that be The Force Unleashed or Fallen Order or Star Wars Rebels or whatever. I know Force Unleashed isn't canon anymore, but
yeah,
a lot of the stories, the point I'm getting at here, is that so many of them have occurred in that gap in between episodes 3 and 4. So I totally agree with you. I think the period between episodes 6 and 7 is a great window to explore, especially when you get towards the dying stages of that era, because we've seen the immediate aftermath of episode 6 now in a variety of media, you know, whether that be the Aftermath trilogy, Alphabet Squadron, Star Wars Battlefront 2, or The Mandalorian. So I think going a little bit further into that timeline does make a lot of sense. And, you know, it would make part of that, you know, Disney's and Lucasfilm's wider strategy in terms of focusing on that period with all the different TV shows. Because, you know, we've got the Book of Boba Fett come in, we've got Mandalorian Season 3 come in, we've got Ahsoka, we've got Rangers of the New Republic. So it would fit into their focus that they've got on that era right now, which I think would make a lot of sense. And yeah, I know, I totally agree. I have the same anxieties and fears as you do about this, Ben-Roy. But again, you know, it's exciting that we do actually have something in the works, and I don't think this is one that's gonna. I don't think this is an announced Star Wars game that's gonna get cancelled, thankfully, because we've had way too many of them over the years. But yeah, moving on from Ubisoft's upcoming game, to talk a little bit about EA and the license. Now, after the initial report, although the initial report from Wired and then also Star Wars' official announcement on their website didn't say at all that EA weren't working with Star Wars anymore. In fact, it emphasized that they would continue to make Star Wars titles. They still had to have their little statement on Twitter being all like, hey, we're still here. Don't think we're done yet, because we're definitely still doing stuff, even though we've had our exclusive deal taken away from us. We're still doing Star Wars, which is good. I'm going to reiterate that I think that is a good move, because for as much as we can talk about how, you know, they cancelled Amy Hennig's Star Wars game, the more we hear about that project, it does seem as though there are a lot of behind-the-scenes problems there. And then they also cancelled Project Orca? I think it was the smuggler game that was coming from a different studio. I forget which one now, though.
The exact names, but I remember Jason Schreier saying 4 Star Wars games were cancelled.
Yeah. But, you know, despite that, we have had some successes there.
I mean, like,
yeah.
Sorry to jump on you. I just cool. It's not the era of when I had, like, say, a Starfighter game and then a Bounty Hunter game and then Battlefront. There's not so much variety, but like, is it 2015 the first Battlefront? I mean, I enjoyed that. I played that for 200 hours. I played Battlefront 2 for 250 hours.
Yes, baby.
Like, Fallen Order, I enjoyed. I mean, even though I feel like Cal Kestis was a bit boring in spots. Like, I felt like you could
I agree.
Gone somewhere else. All the characters around him were interesting, more interesting. Like, everything else around him was more interesting, like, than him. And then Squadrons was kind of like, I played it and I just felt like, say, I think they shouldn't, like, put things like Leia or Vader or Rey Sloane in the marketing if they're going to be shown in 5 frames of the entire game. I really was hoping for, like, Rey Sloane in that game, like, more like delving into that rather than, like, say, this confined story. But then that's fine as well. Like, that was me getting my expectations too high. So it's weird. Like, more is good, and I didn't hate the EA stuff, so I want EA to. I feel like they've learned their lesson now, and I want a Battlefront. I want a current gen. I want a PlayStation 5 version of Battlefront 3. Like, I want it, and I'm not going to say I don't. And give me what I want. And imagine, like, they could just, after some High Republic stuff, they could throw some of that in there. We could get extra Clone Wars.
Exactly. There is so much potential for a third Battlefront game. And, you know, I've spoken at length both on here and What Culture Gaming about how dumb EA's decision to end support for Battlefront 2 was. And, you know, looking at DICE...
you know why that is, isn't it? Because of
yeah, exactly. And looking at, you know, DICE, there have been a lot of departures with that studio over the last couple of months. So, you know, Dennis Bramwell, who was the creative director on Battlefront 2, he's now no longer with DICE, and, you know, put up a tweet the other month talking about, you know, quote tweeting a fan who was upset about how, you know, all this cool Star Wars content is coming, but yet we have nothing for Battlefront 2. And if DICE were allowed to continue with it, they would have made all these things. He just quote tweeted it saying, I know, which hints at, you know, some frustration there. And
yeah,
I just hope that going forward, EA are much more supportive of these studios and allow them time to really bring their vision to life. And, you know, Battlefront 2, the issue with that game in the long term is that they really struggle to monetize it after the loot box controversy and the new progression system they introduced, because they didn't bring out enough cosmetics for people to buy. You look at Battlefield 5, they have cosmetics you can buy every single week. Each week, the store gets rotated in and out, and you can buy stuff, and it encourages that that forced scarcity where you have those skins that people need to get. I'm not saying that I want to see that in Battlefront 3. However, if we want to see these types of games last longer, I would, I'm just kind of saying that Battlefront 2's own demise was EA's own fault in a way. They brought it back and then we're just like, we're going to cut it loose. But I totally agree. I think Battlefront 3 is the priority for me because I really enjoyed Battlefront 2. I want to see like a new kind of Rise of the Empire campaign where you're a part of the 501st and you get to do all that stuff. I want to see new heroes, new eras, and yeah, we had this stuff as well the other week where the actors from Star Wars Battlefront 2 story were doing motion capture together, weren't they? Yeah. So who knows what could come next?
It's interesting because like we all the chance they should do what they should. Everyone should look at Gears 5 and see how they've done it, where you can play that game and you can earn currency. It doesn't take a grind to get it, or you can just put some money in and do it and buy a skin. They've got a billion skins and characters in there, and I've managed to get pretty much everything by just playing it. So it is possible. They should do that. They should copy that system for Battlefront 3. And also, like, when you look back at the skins of Battlefront 2, like, why didn't we get Darth Maul with robot legs?
Why didn't we get Luke Bespin? Luke.
Why didn't we get Vader or like damaged Vader, or Vader without the mask on or something like that? So cracked mask or any like a Grievous with a cloak. Like we had some weird Grievous's, but with a cloak would have been nice. Just Count Dooku as a Jedi, things like that. Like they wouldn't have taken that much effort, but also at the same time, wasn't it like a massive problem that they had to sort of like go through Disney with every?
I heard that as well, and it's a weird one because, like if you look at Battlefront 2 right now, it has a really strong modding community. Yeah. And every single week I'm seeing mods for this game that with like excellent skins and playable heroes like Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, Qui-Gon Jinn, that sort of stuff, and Sabine Wren and all the Mandalorian content that's coming out right now. And it just does kind of exemplify how easy it would have been to make Battlefront 2 the complete game, although it never came to pass. But whatever, I won't dwell on it any longer. We'll move on to Respawn and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2. We've known that's been in the works for a while now. I believe Jason Schreier, back when he was at Kotaku, talked about how in the wake of Fallen Order's, sales figures, the sequel got greenlit. And we know so much. Well, we don't know so much, but we know that obviously, it will probably continue the adventures of Cal Kestis and the rest of the Stinger Mantis. I've actually got a quick editorial video coming out within the next week or so about a potential era that they could go for that game, so I won't spoil it too much here, but I do think it would make sense for Fallen Order 2 to tie in slightly with the High Republic, really lean into those Tomb Raider, Uncharted-esque elements, and have Cal and the rest of the Stinger Mantis maybe looking for a High Republic artifact the rest of the Empire are after. That's kind of where I'm really going with that idea. But yeah, Fallen Order 2, what do you think Respawn are getting up to, and what kind of features and stuff do you think we could see? Because I know a lot of the time when we were talking about the game when it released in 2019, we did kind of have that feeling that there was a sense of tragedy to the adventure of Cal and Seer and co, because any Jedi around about that time needs to kind of get out of the picture by the time that Luke Skywalker comes around. And obviously, for Star Wars Rebels, I won't spoil anything, but both Ezra and Kanan find different ways of exiting the story before the events of, Rogue One and Episode 4. So what do you think's coming?
I think that series maybe has a game, or one or two more games, and then I feel like they could hand off that moniker of Fallen Order to Ahsoka. Maybe he's with her for a bit, and then ultimately Cal sacrifices himself or dies to the hand of Vader or something like that. Or maybe he saves her. I don't want, as I think we've said 100 times before, us in conversations on here, I don't want there to be actually there's 100 Jedi alive in this time and Luke's not special at all, because the growing, I'm behind this, the growing sort of Mace Windu is gonna be alive. I'm
No, you can't. You're not allowed to manifest that, Ben-Roy. It's banned.
I mean, we never saw Plo Koon exactly die. Plo Koon could have jumped out that Jedi Starfighter as well. And then last minute, if you pause it, you see something fly off the ship.
Kit Fisto was playing dead as well when Palpatine did that little face. Does Fisto die when Palpatine does the weird face? Or is that
Yeah,
before?
he just goes and just like
Yeah.
slaps him with a saber as he's just really focusing on Mace Windu. Everyone just sort of screams in terror, and Mace
Yeah.
Windu's the only one who can sort of hold it down. But
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like the thing is, the problem I had with Battlefront 2, just going back to that quickly, is
Mhm.
they were like, oh, you're gonna play as the bad guys, you're gonna play as Inferno Squad, and then in like 10 seconds it was like, oh, actually we've got real, like, sort of, it didn't go, it was like that for a level, and then it was everyone sort of like realizing, wait, like, we're the
Are,
baddies.
are we the baddies?
Yeah, and I really wanted to, at least most of that, to be we're the baddies before, like, I'm fine with the characters and the revelations in that story, but it just felt
Mhm.
like you just lied to
Very
me.
bad at numbers.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Battlefront 2 story as well, but yeah, I definitely agree. And the actual Inferno Squad book that's set before that, I think that's set, I
yeah,
believe, just before the Battle of Hoth or just after. I can't remember. That kind of spends more time with them, as out and out
it's
villains. Are you going with this train of thought to the idea that maybe a Fallen Order sequel or threequel? Because I expect it to be a trilogy. Do you
yeah.
think there'll be more like anthology games where you play a different character in each one?
I think so. I would like that, like,
Mm.
because that way that EA can sequelize things as they like to do, but then they can go different places. Because, like, again, like, unless people at Disney have the grand plan for Cal Kestis, and we didn't see him turn up in any shows. Like, now we've got 100 shows coming. Is he going to pop up in one of them? As I've said
Mhm.
before, it's a real actor. They chose a real human's face rather than making their own face, and like, so. I mean, I don't know, a lot of publishers and developers do this, but like, I just feel like there's a grander plan for Cal Kestis, or we knock him off in a game or two and maybe
Mhm.
hand the franchise over to Ahsoka. And I want to delve more into
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean,
the
I'm actually
horrible.
reading the Ahsoka novel right now, so.
Oh, well, yeah, I want to delve more into like just the gritty horribleness of the Empire, and I want them to like take a chance rather than the books doing all sort of the lift and work in that department,
Mhm.
and like, say, the Battlefront book that I want to get to, and then the game's kind of just like, oh, actually we're all super happy friends and everyone's nice on the inside,
Yeah.
even though that's like, that's lessons that you need to sort of learn and stuff, but you know what
Mhm.
I mean, like, I want them to go places with Star Wars that they haven't done before, but still sort of like, still have it so I guess kids can play it at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I think Fallen Order 2 is probably the most anticipated Star Wars game that is in the works right now, more so than Ubisoft's upcoming title. But that's for good reason. It's the first single-player Star Wars game, well, single-player focused Star Wars game rather, because Battlefront 2 did have a campaign that
Yeah.
we'd had in. Crikey, the last one would have been Force Unleashed 2 before that, I want to say, which is, well, that came out in 2010. So that was nearly a decade without a
And that was
single-player Star Wars title.
that I think that might have been shorter than the Battlefront 2 campaign. It was like
It
2 hours.
it definitely was. I was not I was not happy in 2010. I'll tell you right now. But yeah. So Fallen Order 2, Star Wars Squadrons. I mean, I think I forget now. Actually, this is again showing how ill prepared I am. But I swear that EA Motive, they've got one project in the works, and I believe there was talk that they're doing another Star Wars title as well. But I can't remember now. But I would assume that maybe that might be a bigger Squadrons game, maybe. I don't
It's
know.
weird. I don't think you get mileage out of, say, like like doing like 7 or 8 Squadron games. I feel like
Hey, the Rogue Squadron series. We got lots of games out of that.
I feel like games were a lot cheaper to like make back then, or something. Like,
Hmm.
they could crank them out faster. Here it's like everyone just tries to do too much, and I feel like it would be a disappointment after a while. Like, I feel like, do they just do what Battlefront did and just go, oh, hey, you can play in all airships now in this next one, sort of thing?
Hmm.
Or do they just keep it focused on that time period, and do they go on with those characters that we have left of the game? That's the thing I'm wondering. But yeah, like, I'm here for another Squadrons game. But like, I'm pretty much going to play most Star Wars stuff that comes out, but
Yep.
I mean, more so than anything, like, the story didn't do it for me as much, but the gameplay and adjusting my shields and then diverting to the
Multiplayer is so fun when you
yeah.
get an actual team thing and you have a situation where like someone's like, I've got a mark on my 6, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get him, and you get him, and it's like that's great. That is a great formula.
And then when it works, it works. And then sometimes when it just turns into two people flying in a circle trying to kill each other, then you kind of like,
Mhm.
then it gets a bit frustrating. But yeah, like, I'm not so, I can take a bit of a longer gap with this one, like, unless they've got something that's really going to mix up. I more would like say I'm here for more, uh, like let's get Battlefront 3 where we can have ship combat. You know the promise of Battlefront 3 OG where we was going to have ground battles and you could fly into space.
Yeah.
Let's get that as a reality. I think like if was it No Man's Sky can sort of make that work, even though there's hidden loads there, like let's try and get that going.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would love to see that. Battlefront 3 seems to be cursed as a title, but hopefully it'll come through. And we'll move on just to wrap things up. We'll talk about the unknown regions, as it were, of Star Wars games. Because now that basically, Lucasfilm Games have opened up the door and inviting pitches from across the games industry, there is an ending array of studios that could tackle Star Wars and an endless array of genres even for Star Wars titles to actually come about. And obviously with Lucasfilms, giving Indiana Jones to Bethesda and Todd Howard, there is potential there to get a situation where you have a Star Wars and Indiana Jones gaming library that is maybe fractured across different, console exclusivity deals, because we don't know if Indiana Jones is going to be exclusive or not. I'm praying it won't, because I don't have an Xbox, but I could totally see why it would make sense for them to do that. In terms of studios that I kind of want to see tackle Star Wars, I think Codemasters doing a pod racing reboot is a no-brainer. I'd love to see that happen just so badly. I need part of the joy, we're talking about that era where there were Star Wars games, like multiple Star Wars games every year. Some forgettable, others great. Is that they covered such a wide breadth of genres, and I want to see that come back. It can't just be all third-person action adventure shooters. We need to have, that return to the thing that made Star Wars gaming so great, is that you could embody a variety of different experiences in the galaxy far, far away. I'd also maybe quite like to see, if we are going to go down the route of the light side and the dark side, not that I'm saying that either Sony or Microsoft are the light side or the dark side, but I would maybe like to see either Sucker Punch or Sony Santa Monica get their hands on maybe a lightsaber style game. And again, maybe EA will wake up, and I know BioWare aren't the BioWare of yore, but maybe we'll get a new Knights of the Old Republic or something like that. We need, there are so many places they could go to here. So Ben-Roy, who do you want to see make a Star Wars game, and what Star Wars games do you want to see made?
Obsidian do a Knights of the Republic style game straight away, like they did. They got screwed over with Star Wars. They got screwed over with Fallout, but then they've had their redemption Fallout story with the Outer Worlds. So now let them have their Star Wars redemption story by doing another massive RPG, or the condensed massive alluring RPG that we had with Outer Worlds. Like, let's get Obsidian back, and if they want to do a Star Wars game, let's get them on board. You got to feel like is it Sucker Punch that did Tsushima?
Yeah.
Sucker Punch or Bend do an Ahsoka game. Like, why don't we just have an Ahsoka sort of like give me that Ahsoka style sort of like, I think I saw some people suggesting this on Twitter as well, but like, I want to play as Ahsoka, but I want to see the sort of like the themes that we had in her episode, and like I go with that and like make it really sort of like lightsaber combat, like heavy, and make it delve into like the areas of Fallen Order a bit more. But like it's like going have her escape what they called the Vader's group of gang who attack
the Inquisitors.
Have a story where Ahsoka's escaping Inquisitors or something like that.
They cover that story in the Ahsoka novel about how she got her white lightsabers and stuff, and it's because she stole Inquisitors and then purified the crystals. But as we've seen, with the cancelled Clone Wars episodes and that Ahsoka novel as well, and then with season 3 of the Clone Wars, Lucasfilm aren't strangers to redoing certain stories in different mediums. So that could totally happen.
With the books, they seem like the groundwork, and then things get tweaked out the books when they see fit. So like I mean, either take what the Ahsoka novel is there and like expand on it, or go around it in bits, but don't like totally erase it off the map. But yeah, I feel like just jump into this character that people haven't seen. It's like, give us something new. Ahsoka is still new to a vast majority of Star Wars fans, if you think of it that way. Like no one like compared to the people that watch the films or Clone Wars, like films is like way up there, and Clone Wars is like somewhere in the middle, I'd guess. Like, and like just explore that character more. And sure, we're having a TV show coming out, so even like a Disney Plus show, so like sort of like have it around the same time. Like I feel like that's just such a stable character to go from, and I think it would just work. And then like Bend could do the way that Days Gone is like you're scrappy out in the wilds, like, and it's the sort of an apocalypse thing. Have Bend do one when you play like on a couple of planets like Jakku and stuff, like just rounding around.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd also, purely for nostalgia purposes, I want to see a Republic Commando game. I mean, we already know that Delta Squad were brought back into canon with that one episode of the Clone Wars. I forget which one. I think it's when Savage Opress comes onto the scene and is murdering the Jedi, and they send Delta Squad to investigate. So we know they're in the canon. Yeah. I want to know what happens to Sev. That's what I want. I finally want that resolved. I don't know who would be best for that game. I certainly don't think that the team on Rainbow Six Siege would make sense for it, given their focus is on multiplayer. But if we can get a proper co-op oriented studio to do something like a Republic Commando sequel, I think that would be great. I haven't got anything else to say though, Ben-Roy. I don't know if you have any other ideas that are brewing around in your brain before we say goodbye there.
I just want more. Like, I don't want 3-4 Star Wars games a year, but I'm interested to see. I wouldn't really want the standard Ubisoft style game, like the boiled down version. Who knows? Cory Barlog has been tweeting stuff about space for so long.
He mentioned the Mandalorian. I think it was Cory Barlog who wanted to do the Mandalorian, wasn't it? I can't remember now.
Yeah, and I forgot to say that that was could be one of my first things. Like, I want to see a Mandalorian game because like. Why not? Or play as another Mando, or play a game on Mandalore.
Yeah, go back to the Mandalorian Civil Wars, flesh out those characters. Maybe even, Jasta Mareel was brought back into the canon with season 2. Maybe you tell the origin of Jango Fett, and you take on, make it like Red Dead Redemption 2, where Jasta Mareel is sort of the Arthur Morgan figure in a way, and is the person who kind of raises Django. I don't know. There are so many different places you go. Yeah,
like you could expand on that sort of thing. There is so much we can do. I feel like we're going to get less cancelled games now because you're not going to have I think some studios that are going to pitch ideas.
Everyone wants to have the opportunity. It's not just like they can get rid of it now. It's like if you have the opportunity to make a Star Wars game, you don't want to let that opportunity slip.
Devolver Digital want to get in as well. Like I said, let's have some smaller titles as well. I'm not really sure how that would manifest, but we can have the massive Battlefront 3s and the Fallen Order 2s and everything, and the Ahsokas, and then let's have some like little small things on the side. Not necessarily phone games, because I'm just retired in that aspect. I can't. My phone is just for Twitter and WhatsApp.
I'm too weak. I'm too weak.
But that's all I really have, unless we have a explore like say 100-hour epic of Mace Windu, how he comes back to prevalence in the
here he goes again. But yeah, the conclusion we have here is that Star Wars is great and we're looking forward to seeing the new games. But I want to know what you all think of the Lucasfilm Games Star Wars news with Ubisoft and EA down in the comments below. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you can actually go reach out to us on social media. We have a What Culture Star Wars account. You can also follow me if you want to at Ewan Ruins Things, and you can follow Ben-Roy Turner on Twitter at.
You can follow me at Ben-Roy Turner. And I'm just sorry, I forgot to mention Thrawn. We need to sound Thrawn in there. Get some Thrawn titles in there.
Yep, totally agree. That's it, though. Be sure to subscribe to What Culture Star Wars as well. Don't forget, obviously, 2021 is a huge year for Star Wars. But anyway, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Later. Or a story about one lonely destroyer droid.
Or Mars Guo from The Phantom Menace.
Get Sleaze Bagano back in there.
Yes, Ellen Sleaze Bagano.